Instagram Live. Paul Scott here. I wanted to talk to you guys today about forgiveness. I was listening to John C. Maxwell's leadership podcast. And he was talking about Tiger Woods and his whole journey this year of winning the Masters. It's such an amazing story. It's such an amazing comeback because Tiger is obviously, as we all know, one of the best golfers of all time, right? He's an icon within his industry, within his sport. And it's very rare in any field or in any sport to have someone who is literally at the top of their game, one of the GOATs, right? The greatest of all time, but to have someone as such an iconic figure. And then because of his back surgeries and, his other health problems, and then he dealt with some stuff with his family and some personal issues off of the golf course. And so for him to be able to deal with all that and then come back this year and win the Masters and literally get right back to the top of his industry, the top of the game, and prove why he is one of the best, why he's the best, is just mind-blowing. And we were really impressed by that. And that was one thing that John was talking about and really digging into that. But there was one thing that he said that really stuck out to me. It really spoke to me. And he talked about how we're all human. We all deal with problems, and we all deal with issues, and we always want to be remembered by our best moments, and we don't want to be judged by our worst moments, right? Let me get a 777 in the chat if you have ever done something that you regret. If you've ever done something where you're like, man, I really hope people don't find out about this. There is something in your past that you've done that you're like, man, I'm really glad there's not too many people that know about this. I know I have put both my hands up. I'm the first one to admit. We all make mistakes. We all have things that we're embarrassed about, things that we don't want to be judged by forever in our past. But yet, as we're doing something currently, we always want to say, hey, we're moving forward. We're not the same person we are today as we were 5 years ago, as we were 3 years ago, the same person that we were last month, 2 months ago. As we continue to move forward and progress in life, we want to be judged by our accomplishments of today, the things that we do and how we act and how we carry ourselves today, and not by the mistakes of our past. We don't want to be judged by that. So in the same token, I always talk about planting seeds, right? The law of reciprocation. What you put out is what comes back to you. So in that case, are you forgiving to other people? Do you forgive other people and see the progress that they're making in their lives and give them the opportunity to be able to move forward? Is that your mindset? Is that your thinking? Or are you constantly putting people down and judging people by who you knew them as and not who they are today? Do you allow people to progress and as they move forward, notice their current accomplishments? Because again, what you put out is what you get back, right? The law of reciprocation. So if I'm always judging people by their past and I'm always seeing people in that old light of who they were and not who they are today and the things that they're doing today, and realizing and recognizing their accomplishments, how could I ever expect anyone to do the same thing for me? How can I ever expect people to notice my progress in my life and celebrate my accomplishments with me if I'm not doing that for other people? And I think a lot of that goes back into forgiveness. A lot of that sometimes is, especially when people do something wrong to us, right? Sometimes it's really tough depending on the situation and kind of everything that happened. It's really hard to forgive people sometimes, especially when they really did you wrong. It's so easy to hold on to that pain and forever judge that person by their past actions. But again, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all want to be forgiven. And so for that, in order for us to be forgiven, we got to give forgiveness. I remember there was a good friend of mine who years and years ago, we ran a store together. We had a nice little e-commerce business, and we had all types of jewelry and clothing and all that kind of stuff. And we ran this business together, and he was more in charge of the marketing, even though I kind of helped out with that and making sales and stuff. But I really handled the behind the scenes stuff, the payout solutions and making sure that we had enough money for merchandise and making sure that all the employees were paid, and even just divvying out our own personal paychecks, all that kind of stuff. I was in charge of that, and so that was like my whoops, dropped the camera there, but that was my role within our business, and he kind of handled the marketing and stuff. Well, obviously, because we were both part owners, he still had access to all the bank accounts and all that kind of stuff, and he wound up going on vacation, and he was in an area where wasn't the best Wi-Fi, so it was really hard for him to kind of do his work. So I kind of had to do the entire business myself, essentially. So I had to do the marketing, I had to handle all of his responsibilities, as well as still the payouts and doing everything from my end. And so for a few weeks I handled everything and ran the entire business. And then all of a sudden I looked in the bank account one day, and I noticed that there were several $100s missing from our account. And it had gone to him. So my business partner, who had not been doing any work for the past couple weeks because of his bad Wi-Fi, he kind of let me know sporadically, hey, look, I thought I was going to be able to, but I can't. I said, dude, no problem. I got it. I'll handle it. And without even, talking to me or seeing what our weekly profits were, our monthly profits, or going over any of the numbers, he kind of just dipped into the bank account and took out money from us, basically stole from me. And obviously I have my own stuff going on in life, and I have my own bills. And so it was a very, it was a tough situation, right? I could always view him as a thief. I could hate him forever. And, I could hold on to that anger and hold on to that hate for a very long time. But it's kind of like drinking poison and hoping that you hurt the other person, right? 10 times out of 10, when you're holding on to that anger, holding on to that hate, holding on to judgment of other people, you're doing more harm to yourself than you are to the other person. It's stupid for me to drink poison and hope for somebody and wish for somebody else to die. I'm hurting myself. I'm poisoning my own body by holding on to that hatred. And the same thing with forgiving other people. There's an amazing relationship. You never know what type of value that someone you can bring. You never know what type of value that you can bring to someone, and then you never know what type of value they could bring in return. Even if it's not something that they do directly, maybe it's just, hey, you know what? You forgive this person, and you're just cordial with each other, and then that person introduces you to someone who you wind up going into business with later, or they put an amazing opportunity in front of you, an amazing deal, and something that changes your life. But had you never fixed that initial relationship, if you were still judging that person by their past, and you viewed them as a snake and whatever other terrible names you could think of, then you would have missed out on that other opportunity, because they would have never been able to introduce you to their friend, who down the line became a good friend of yours, and you two came together and collaborated on something incredible. So definitely it's important to forgive people, and that's what I did. I took that higher road, and I realized that almost immediately I forgave him, and then he wound up being in a tougher situation where he even needed more money from me, from my business that I was completely running by myself. But I went out of my way to make sure that he got what he needed, and I sent him even more money, because at the end of the day I knew that in one way, shape, or form, and maybe it's not, I didn't expect him to be able to pay me back, even though that was the agreement, that he was going to pay me back, which he never did, by the way. But I didn't do it to be paid back. I went in with the mindset of, I'm probably never going to see this money again, but it's okay, because I know that he's in a tough spot. I know that he's in a jam, and I'm doing something good for someone who really needs it. And so I gave him the money, and I moved on. And I did it because, again, I knew that me putting that out into the world, into the universe, putting out that kindness and that generosity will come back to me tenfold. And looking back at that, because this happened a few years ago, looking back at that experience, I can definitely say that today I've had so much more, so many blessings brought into my life, way more than I could ever count. And I don't want to say it was solely because of that, me giving him money, but just that mindset of always going out of your way, doing things for other people, being forgiving, and not judging people. So I guess I always leave you guys with an action step, something that you guys can do to kind of implement this into your life. So I want you guys to think of a situation where someone did you wrong, or think of a situation where maybe there was a friend of yours who years and years ago in high school used to drink together and smoke and all this kind of stuff. So you have that view of them as always that drinking, smoking, partying, college kid. But maybe today, maybe they're a successful executive for some huge company, or maybe today they're an entrepreneur and they are running a business, traveling the world and really living it up and being very, very successful in the world of business. But yet you still view them as that drinking, smoking college kid that you used to party with every weekend. Think of someone in your life that's either one, done you wrong, or two, someone that you used to, do some pretty bad stuff with, right? And forgive them. Well, one, if they did you wrong, forgive them. But two, if it's just your view of someone as you knew them, right? Someone that you used to go to school with and drinking, smoking, well, look at where they're at today. If they're a successful entrepreneur, recognize them, reach out to them and say, hey man, I see what you're doing. Congratulations. I see you're a successful executive. I see you're a successful business owner. I see you're an entrepreneur. Dude, you've come so far. Congratulations. I want you to send that text to that person, because it's absolutely going to mean the world to them. And not only that, but putting out that goodness and that positivity, you never know what opportunities are going to fall into your lap. So with that being said, hopefully you guys got some value from this video. If you did, definitely like, share, because again, if you got some value, I know that someone else could as well. So appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great weekend. Have a great Saturday night. Be safe. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.